Hi, it's Margaret with Let's Learn to Sew. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to finish the edge of your fabric using a zigzag stitch. Right now, all that I've done is I've sewn these two pieces of fabric together using a 5/8 seam allowance and a straight stitch. That's typically what you would do in most patterns. First thing I'm going to do is press it in place as sewn. Then we're going to open it up and I'm going to press it flat. I'm going to flip it over, press it on the right side of the fabric. And now we're ready to take this over to the machine and finish that edge. If you're somebody who does not normally press your seams as you go, I want to encourage you to give it a try. You're going to find that your final project looks a lot better if you'll just take those few extra minutes to press as you go. Sewing machine, I've got my thread tails under my presser foot into the back of the machine. I am using some black thread, but that's only so that you guys will be able to see it. You do want to make sure that you coordinate your thread with your fabric. I'm going to set my machine for a zigzag stitch. I've got a stitch length of 4.0 and a stitch width of 3.0. I've got my fabric folded back, so I want to make sure that I don't stitch this area. I'm only going to be stitching on one layer of the fabric at a time. I'm going to start at the top edge. What I like to do is I like to line up the edge of my presser foot right against that seam. I'm going to go ahead and lower the presser foot and take a couple of stitches. Okay, that looks like a good width, so I'm going to go ahead and stitch all the way down, making sure that you back stitch at the beginning and the end. And I know that I'm staying straight because I've got the edge of my presser foot up against the edge of that seam. I'm going to raise the presser foot, trim the threads. Now I've moved to the other side of the seam. Again, lining up the presser foot with the edge of that seam. Back stitching at the end, raise your presser foot and trim your threads. We've sewn down both sides of the seam. We're going to take this over to the cutting table and clean it up. Okay, first thing I want to do is trim the thread tails. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take the scissors and we're going to trim up against our zigzag stitch, making sure that we don't cut into the zigzag stitch. I like to do is to fold my fabric back out of the way so I don't have to worry about snipping into it. And I'm just going to cut away the excess fabric. You don't have to go as slow as I'm going. I'm just trying to make sure that you guys are able to see it and I can keep my hands out of the way of the camera. Now at this point you take it back over to the iron and press it following the instructions for the project you're working on. I just went ahead and pressed this open. Now what's going to happen is as this gets washed, say this was a garment, we might get a little tiny bit of fraying here on the very edge, but because we have that zigzag stitch, it's not going to fray and come apart all the way back down to the seam. This gives us a much cleaner finish on our final project. Any questions about how to finish the edge of your seams using a zigzag stitch? Let me know and I'll be happy to answer them. If you enjoyed the video, I hope you'll give us a thumbs up. If you're not already a subscriber, be sure to hit the subscribe button and be sure to visit Let's Learn to Sew, your pattern making and sewing headquarters.